What is up, YouTubers and lovers of budget cars and bikes? Welcome to the second part in the series for this Triumph Street Triple R that came in for our salvage about 2 weeks ago. I'm hoping you've seen the initial, not review, but the first impressions, as it were, when that arrived a couple of weeks ago. I'll stick it in up here somewhere so you can have a look at that if you're interested. It's had a very good clean now, as you can see, although the back wheel, as I've just rolled it out of the garage, as it were, looks pretty crappy. But there's some good news and some bad news in a lot of respects. I mean, those wheels have come up beautifully, as you can see. They really are lovely in gold. The camera's a little bit shaky. I do apologise. I'm using the new Insta360R, and I've not used that before for this kind of video, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm hoping it all comes out all right. Worst case scenarios, I'd have to do it again, wouldn't I? I've watched it, as you can see, and I've given it a good old polish as well. That chain there and the sprocket doesn't look too clever, does it? But I'm hoping that'll clean up okay. But what else have I discovered? It was very, very, very low on oil. That little tickety-tick clatter that we talked about on the first video, coming from around about here, I'm convinced that that is to do with the cam chain tensioner, that little beauty there. I think it just needs a new cam chain tensioner. They're about 30 quid off eBay, so no great big shakes on that really. What else have I discovered? Yeah, as I said, it was very low on oil. And these stickers here, that you can actually see where the sticker was. You can see the kind of like Street Triple and the R in the middle. I found a set of those for 20 quid from a company in Poland, the same company I was going to buy the stickers for the CB1300. Again, if you haven't seen that video, I'll stick it in up here somewhere. So 20 quid posted, I think that's pretty good. A couple of other things I didn't notice, these kind of like little, what do you call them, bungs, dinghies for putting the rear paddock stand on. Paddock bungs, I guess you'd call them. They've got carbon fibre on them, so I don't know if they come like that or somebody just kind of put that on there. But these brake calipers, the Nissans, they look really, really in good order. The discs look really, really good. I like this little bit of carbon here as well. Again, the front, it's got braided lines as well, which is kind of cool. The thing that was up here, that you might remember from the video, which I thought was like an extension for the little nose cone here, the Bikini Fairy, was actually part of the front mudguard. I pulled it off. It's in the garden somewhere now, I think. So as soon as I pulled that off, things became a little bit more obvious. I have noticed it's missing that little thing there as well. If you go around this side, I'll show you what I mean. There's a little kind of cover that goes in there. That seems to be missing from that side there, possibly from when it was stolen and recovered. Don't know. Again, I like these little aftermarket levers, but they don't bend very well. I'm not quite sure why that is. But the front end looks much nicer now. I imagine it probably did have some kind of fairing extension here, because it's got three little holes, as you can see. I think there was something else sticking up here for a better wind protection in that respect. As we said in the first one, it's got these lovely anodized brake and yeah, the sleeve and the master cylinder, proper Triumph branded ones as well. They're not cheap. They're really like 100 quid odd each. Braided line at the back as well. The exhaust sounds awesome. This clickety-click that we spoke about before, but I noticed after I topped it up with oil, was I put about 1.5 litres of oil in this. I noticed it did quieten down. After about a minute or so, it just literally disappears. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. Generally speaking, I mean, I did make a video on riding the bike, as I said I would do, but it didn't come through. I was using this Insta360 and the video just got lost somehow. I don't know whether it was the way I transferred it onto the laptop or whatever. It was corrupted, whatever, it just disappeared. So I'm having to, I couldn't obviously load that onto this, so I'm having to just do a walk around now because I'm not insured for this now, so I can't really ride it, which is a shame. I'll talk to you about that again in a minute. That bloody sprocket and chain there, that's just been sat in the back garden for a couple of weeks now. It doesn't look great, does it? But I have put a deal together with a dealer, oddly enough. He's basically going to take this beautiful bike here and this absolutely gorgeous bike here, which again, I'm hoping you've seen the videos on this as well, the VTR Firestorm 1000 Honda, which came in a few weeks ago. They're putting new windows in everywhere around here, so you'll have to excuse the noise. I've just given this a little bit of a brush up. It's going, basically. I'm hoping the deal's going to go together. The guy's going to take both this one and the Triumph Street Triple, and he's going to give me a decent price. I'll talk to you about that when the new bike comes, because I'm actually doing a Part X deal with both these bikes against a not a brand new one, but brand new to me, nice bike that I've been interested in getting for a very, very long time. One of those dream bikes kind of things. I haven't given this a massive clean, as you can see. Do you remember the CB1100, the Super Blackbird, the way that this kind of engine grime here, the drips of water, as it were, come on there? I could do that, like I did before with the oven cleaner, but I'm not going to, because it's not going to stay with me, so this seems kind of pointless. But here you can see all this crap here from when I put the ACF 50 on there and stuff like that. I've got to give that a bit of a clean, and there are a couple of little marks on here as well, which, you know, it is what it is. It's 1998, so it's not exactly a young bike, and it's not going to go for a lot of money. As I said, we'll talk about that afterwards, but this is more to do with this Street Triple. As I said, it was a stolen, recovered. The bung on the side's missing, which kind of gives me a clue as to how they got in there. But generally speaking, it's just literally the front mudguard. The chain and sprocket probably do need replacing. I don't know if that's I don't know enough about chain and sprockets, if I'm honest. The rear tyre does need replacing. It does need a rear tail tidy there, but it does have integrated LED kind of brake light and indicators in one, so that's why it's not got any indicators. These obviously, as we spoke about before, these need doing something with. I would take them off, as I said, but that's not down to me, is it really? But generally speaking, I think it's a nice bike. Now, power-wise, let's talk about specs. This is 107 or 110 horsepower, depending on who you ask, at around about 50 foot-pound of torque, or newton meters rather, of torque, which is it's enough for a little bike. It's so light and agile, this bike. It's just unbelievable. I've had a lot of speed triples, 955i's and 1050s, as you know, on the channel, and I love those bikes. This is like having one of those, but half the weight. It is so much fun. If you watch the video on the Monster 769, was it 789, something like that, the one I got as a loan bike from GP Motorcycles in Plymouth, very reminiscent of that. You know, you just jump on, turn the key and you're gone, you know, nothing to worry about. But it will keep up with pretty much anything on the road, and it's so light and agile in corners. It was so much fun to ride this. I'm really pissed off that I couldn't actually sort of show you that video that I took when we went out for a ride on this, but it is what it is, you know. We'll have to just put up with this for now. It's not going to hang about. What would I kind of advise, as it were? Will you just stop making so much noise? What would I advise when it comes to buying salvage bikes? A couple of lessons I learned. Now, the first thing to note when you're buying a salvage bike is take a look at the forks. Make sure they go in a nice straight line all the way down, because if they don't, it's at a clunk at the front, which means basically you could end up needing new forks. The other thing to note, if you're going to be looking at buying a salvage bike, try to buy one that's actually got bungs on there as well, as in crash bungs, because that will have protected the bike no end from, you know, any kind of damage if it fell over. This one's got the bobbins on the wheel here. It's got it on the front forks. It's got it on the side. So when it did go down, it was very, very minimal damage, which is what you want. But the biggest advice I would give is check the forks. Make sure they're not absolutely mullered, because if they are, you are in a world of problems. You know, you don't want to be buying new forks for a motorcycle, do you really? Tank as well. Make sure, because ultimately, I think if you buy a salvage bike, the most expensive things to replace are going to be the forks and the tank. If you can get a good look at those and they're fine, the rest of it is just literally bolt-on parts. You've got nothing to worry about. Exhaust, rear hangers, that kind of stuff. It's not the end of the world if you've got to replace those, but if you've got to buy a tank, they're like 300 quid. The forks, maybe up to 500 quid. Headlights cheap enough, handlebars cheap enough, switchgear cheap enough, but also make sure the wheels, I mean, I've seen bikes that I thought, oh, that looks nice, and then you suddenly notice there's a great big gouge and the tyres flat, so that's obviously gone. I mean, to get this back on the road the way it should be, I would think probably 60 quid for the front mud guard, chain and sprocket set, what, 200 or 300 quid, rear tyre 100 quid, tail tidy 50 quid. I reckon for about 400 quid this bike could be as it should be again. That may not include the new cam chain tensioner, but they are only about 30 quid off eBay, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. So, you know, if this came into me at 1500 quid, 1900 quid to the door after fees and delivery, if you spent, say, 400 quid on it, it owes you 23. I reckon you'd be looking at £3,000 for this as a Cat N, when it's all done, obviously, because it's relatively low miles at 2,000 miles. It's only a Cat N, it was only a stolen and recovered, so I don't think there's much to worry about in that respect. I wouldn't buy a Cat S bike, because obviously I don't even know if they're allowed to sell Cat S bikes, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen one. I think once it goes to that point, you can't put it back on the road. So, you know, as I said, from my point of view, the biggest advice I can give is check the tank for damage, check the forks that they're straight. What I actually do sometimes is I get a little bit of paper, A4 paper, and on the picture, I literally follow it down and I make sure that this, I mean, these are upside down, but if it was normal forks, make sure that half of them are straight and then check it against the other half, because then you can obviously see if it's gone in, or, you know, if it's looking like it's on an angle, because you don't want to be getting into that. This one looks fine. There's a bit of a shadow on the front, which makes it look like it's bent, but it's not. I've taken this out for a ride, as I said. I think you'd notice. But generally speaking, would I buy another salvage bike? I don't know, if I'm honest, because this one turned up with a tickety-tick, clackety-clack from the engine. It's got some things on there that I'm not overly impressed with, but I love the bike, so I think I would if it was a bike I really wanted. I don't think I'd just buy, like I do cars, a generic bike that I could make money on, because you just don't know what you're getting into. As I said, a tank can be 300 quid, forks can be 300 or 400 quid, exhaust, wheels, that kind of stuff. On a car, it's just panels, isn't it, really, in that respect? You know, anybody can replace a wing or a bonnet or a bumper. With this, it's a little bit more difficult, and I don't like to buy a bike without listening to it. As I said in the first video, if I'm looking to buy a bike, I always asked the seller to send me a video of it starting up and running, just purely because you can get a good idea. I asked him for a cold start video because you can get a really good idea then of what it sounds like from cold. You know, does it make a clatter like this does? Be it marginally and it does disappear, there's obviously something not 100% there, but I'm confident enough that I can sell this to a dealer. He's got his guy in his garage. He'll just put a cam chain tensioner in there, give it an oil change, it'll be fine, and he'll sell this on. He'll probably sell this on to somebody else who's looking for a cheap bike as well. I mean, I'm getting a decent deal, if I'm honest. I said I'll talk to you about prices once the other bike's here, but for these two bikes, changing it over to a bike I really want, yeah, I'm not unhappy with that at all. I don't really have the room for 2 or 3 bikes like I used to, so it's a good move for me, I think. Anyway, that's it for when it comes to buying salvage bikes. My little bit of advice from the kind of experience I've had, I don't know if I'd do it again. I wouldn't say no, but I don't think it's going to be a constant thing for me because there's just too many variables. I prefer to do cars, as I said, because anybody can replace a wing or something. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have, then consider subscribing, give the video a like, share, and all that kind of good stuff. And we will do another video on the new bike, as it were, when that arrives. I think that's going to be something you're very interested in. Certainly something I'm very interested in. As I said, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comments, put them down below. Anything you think I did right, would you do this? Have you got any other advice, as it were, for buying salvage bikes? Have you bought one? You know, did you have a good deal with it? You know, was it a nightmare? Drop it all in the comments, guys, and we'll catch up in a couple of weeks. All right, take care now.